This is a CNN segment. Kyle Becker tweets, CNN gets absolutely owned trying to school Trump supporters that America is a democracy and not a republic. This is really interesting. It's a bit long, so we'll only play a little bit of it.
President Biden touts his re-election campaign as a fight to preserve democracy. But if you ask some Trump supporters, the former president is not a threat to democracy because the United States is not a democracy.
I'm just going to pause real quick and say, everybody knows this, but we are not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic with democratically elected representatives. What that means is you send someone you think will do a good job to do the job because you're not an expert. Democracy is when everybody votes on a thing, and then if they get the majority, it happens.
CNN's Donnie O'Sullivan spoke to some of those supporters.
What happens if Trump loses?
I don't see him losing.
I don't think he lost the last election, to be honest.
Do you think he's going to win?
Yes. Without a doubt.
No doubt.
What if he doesn't this time? What happens to the country?
We're in trouble.
We're in big trouble.
We're done. If Biden talks about democracy, saving democracy, they're the ones that are killing democracy.
Obviously, there's a lot of criticisms of Trump that he is bad for democracy, that he's bad for American democracy.
Okay, we are a republic.
We're a republic.
We are
we're
not a democracy.
Republic. We're not a democracy.
One thing we've been hearing at Trump rallies like this over the past few months is that America isn't really a democracy.
America
isn't really a democracy. No. They're not saying it's not really a democracy. They're saying it's quite literally not a democracy.
is not a democracy. It's a republic.
It's not a democracy. Okay, democracy is actually not as good as you think it is.
But for centuries, America has celebrated its democracy.
Democracy is worth dying for.
Democracy remains the definition of political legitimacy.
But some Republicans and pro-Trump media are pushing the idea that America is not a democracy.
The United States of America is not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic.
The United States of America is not a democracy. You don't want to be in a democracy.
We are not a democracy.
He didn't read the full quote there, but a democracy is two wolves and a lamb deciding on what's for lunch. A republic is a well-armed lamb contesting the vote.
Yep. We are a republic.
Is America a democracy?
America is a democracy. It was founded as a democracy.
I've heard a lot of conspiracy theories. I hear a lot of things out on the road.
Does he come from the democracy of Ireland?
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, and if we want to go back to the roots of the country, one nation indivisible with liberty and justice for all. We add the under God later.
Yeah.
But to hear Americans, people who would describe themselves as patriots, say that America is not a democracy, that stopped me in my tracks.
You are hearing people say America is not a democracy because there are people around Trump who want them to be saying that, who've been planting that narrative.
Is America a democracy?
My AQ is history teacher.
Yeah.
I think
not right now, but we're a republic.
What's the difference?
I feel like democracy.
Oh boy.
That it's government control. I don't see freedom in democracy. I see freedom.
You don't need to do this, CNN. There are much more well-informed people, and finding some random Trump supporters, I get it. But you know what? A lot of people do this. They go to Times Square. They go to Democrat rallies. Yes, a republic is like you have a collection of jurisdictions that have formed a cooperative government with each other. In this instance, you have states which have formed a federal government which is to serve them, and that is the Republic of the United States of America. A democracy would be a single body where the people vote on things, and there can be different structures of that democracy. That's true. But there's direct democracy, and democracy typically involves the will of the masses. And we do have referendums in some states, but the United States is a republic, and that's why states each get 2 senators to represent the state.
You know what's kind of funny about it too is like the Athenians tried democracy, and then the Romans looked at the Athenians and went, absolutely not doing that, doing something completely different. We're going to take the simple part of that, and then we're going to make it way more complicated and better. It took like 1 generation for people to realize democracy is not a good idea at the international scale.
I say we repeal the 17th Amendment and eliminate the popular vote for federal senators, because the original idea was your local representatives would choose who your senators are going to be that go to the federal government. And the idea was better men would be chosen. The state will be represented by people who were chosen for the job. And the argument was, I believe this was like the beginning of the 1900s, end of the 1800s, too many people were getting their buddies in and it was corrupt, so we should turn it into a popular vote of the state. The states will vote for who they think should represent their state to the vote. That's the pointless. That's what Congress does. Congress represents the will of the people. The states' interests are the states' interests, and this severed the average voter from their local representatives. And now people seem to think that your federal congressman is going to clean up your state. Not going to happen. They might, however, get federal funding for you. Let's play a little bit more.
Honestly, the word democracy and the word republic have often been used interchangeably. There isn't a meaningful difference between them.
So much of the warnings and criticism about Trump is that he is a threat to democracy, that he is anti-democratic.
Absolutely. If they can convince people that we don't have a democracy, then it's okay that Trump is attacking democracy because it doesn't really matter.
So why has democracy become a bad word?
Because it's being used in a way to change the flavor of our country, which is a republic.
These words were used in different ways in the 18th century, and it's true, the founding.
Oh,
Words don't mean anything, and I make them up as I go along.
They were used interchangeably in the 18th century. That's why Benjamin Franklin went out of his way to make a point about the difference. Right. Okay, great. Yeah,
I'd like
wonderful.
to give a really simple explanation of the difference between a democracy and a republic. And a republic is Rhode Island has like a city, and they get 2 senators. California has very many, and they have 2 senators because they are equally represented as state bodies in a republic system. Now, a democracy would strip those senators away, and you would vote purely by population. What happens in places like this, California is a great example. I love bringing this up. When I went to meet the farmers during the drought, they were not allowed to use the surface water for their crops because of democracy. Because the way the vote worked on surface water was the millions of people who live in cities say, we vote to get the water. And the people who live in the farmland in the rural area said, we vote to keep the water. And they went, unfortunately for you, you're 10% of the population. We are 90. Majority rules. Welcome to democracy. So they took the water away from the farmers. In a republic, California cannot outvote Rhode Island's interests. They have to go to the federal government and compromise, and it is rather difficult. They have to negotiate with other states. They have to. If we went full democracy, California, New York, and Illinois would form a compact and say, let's just cut deals with each other and we own the country. And then doesn't matter where you live. If you're outside of those places, you don't have the population. And it would be basically major urban centers, and they would be in total control of everything everyone else does. We still have an element of that because you still have Congress. But these people, I absolutely love how evil CNN is, because I know for a fact that people put this together. They know they've done a Google search. They Google searches. They know what they're saying is a lie. They know they brought on someone to do an interview who is lying, because they think people are stupid. They think the people who watch CNN are stupid. And unfortunately, I have to agree, people who watch CNN are stupid.
No, I agree. And, for them to say, oh, this is just a narrative that Trump has planted with people around his rallies. Well, it must be amazing that Trump has a time machine and he went back and got Ben Franklin's ear when a lady asked him when he was coming out of a meeting that what kind of government we have. And he said, a republic, if you can keep it. So it's just amazing that Trump must have went back in time and changed Ben Franklin's mind as well.
He is a time traveler.
If this country was founded as a democracy, first of all, that's impossible. If New York went to Georgia and said, this will be a democracy, we will vote by popular vote, they'd be like, what? You'll take our stuff from us? Absolutely not. Not going to happen. In fact, so the first attempt at government was the Confederacy, the Confederate States of America, and then, or the Articles of Confederation, I should say, not the Confederacy. That was
people knew what you were saying.
Right. It was the Articles of Confederation, and it didn't work. It was too weak. And so they said, we want to create a stronger federal government. And then I believe it was the Anti-Federalists wanted the Bill of Rights. Mm-hmm. They said, we want you to write down to guarantee you will not do these things to us. So the Constitution instantly got the Bill of Rights, of which I believe originally there were 17.
And they narrowed it down because they were like, we don't need 7 of these. They're just obvious within the document. And then 200 years later, the people did not agree with that.
Well, they combined many of them and changed the language on some of them. They screwed up the Second Amendment miserably. And the original first article was congressional, I believe it was congressional pay. The first and second were congressional pay and apportionment.
Well, one of my favorite things about the Second Amendment is that everybody's like, oh, well, no, it means, militia and it's all very, you're not understanding. It's not the unlimited right to bear arms. Alexander Hamilton didn't even think they needed it because he thought it was so obvious, so clear in the articles describing what Congress, the president, and the Supreme Court are allowed to do that they had no power to regulate firearms. So Hamilton was like, I don't think we need this. I do not think this needs to go in there. And they ended up putting it in because they were like,
Do you think he deserves the musical now, or?
I see. Here's the thing: got Second Amendment, right? He was very pro-gun, but at the same time, also pro-central banking.
Nobody's perfect. That's what I've learned from this conversation.
The original Second Amendment actually went on to say that, and the gist of it was, you can have a gun even outside of the military. Mm-hmm. But the issue was they were concerned that it would actually stop conscription. So it said something like, even if someone is an objector to war, they still have a right to keep and bear arms. The concern was, if we say the militia being required for a free state, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, the implication is everyone can have guns because they're going to fight they're going to be conscripted to militia or military. And they were like, well, no. Then we'll add, even if you object to conscription, you can still have a gun too. Mm-hmm. And then they went, ooh, but that might be used to make it so we can't conscript people in time of war. Take that out. We're good. And most people don't realize this, but if you look at the map of gun rights, we had a long period of no gun rights. If you look at whether states issued permits, I mean, it wasn't until D.C. versus Heller where they said you can actually have a gun outside your house. So there were a lot of states that may issue states. You'd apply for a gun, they'd say, nah, you can't have one. And then one by one over the past, 10 years, 20 years, we have seen states go constitutional carry. Mm-hmm. So now you have all these states where it's like, you can buy a gun. And thanks to Hunter Biden and the DOJ, we may actually see the abolition of federal background checks. I am thrilled with this. This is fantastic.
It's going to be so funny if that happens.
He will be a hero to the gun rights people. They will paint pictures of him.
Isn't that funny that he is potentially going to be the face of the Second Amendment movement? Like, he doesn't even want to be there. It's so fascinating. Or maybe he does. I guess he's a gun enthusiast. Who knows?
Hunter Biden lied on a federal background check form that he was not a drug addict when he bought a gun, and that's what they got him on. And that violates the Constitution. Because the Constitution doesn't say that you have a right to keep and bear arms unless you do drugs. You can have your rights curtailed through due process after they prove you're a drug addict and have convicted you of it. And also, you have the right to not self-incriminate. So the government forcing you to incriminate yourself for crimes if you want to get a gun is unconstitutional. They are appealing Hunter's case. I hope every single gun rights organization files an amicus brief in support of Hunter Biden and says the Form 4473 is unconstitutional and must be abolished.
I have some buddies at the GOA who I can talk to on Discord on the ride home.
Absolutely. And then it may turn out that Hunter Biden has his criminal conviction overturned. He's free to go, and he should be. And then no longer, when you want to buy a gun, do you have to fill out a federal form.
We'll call it the Hunter Biden law.
We'll call it Hunter's precedent.
Isn't it amazing that someone like Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son, may actually be the very thing that turns the ATF from a government agency to a convenience store?
Mm-hmm.
I always wondered when they were presenting his defense in that case, his attorney was like, well, he did not think of himself as an addict at the time, so therefore he wasn't.
He didn't identify as an addict.
I just wonder how many Americans have tried that defense and been told, shut up. Like, go away. You're the problem. Like, why would it work for Hunter Biden? Thanks for watching this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to check out the live show Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. on this channel. Subscribe, and we'll see you all there.